Boom.
And I chose this over more therapy. I mean, it was helpful.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be doing this. It's gonna be things, uploading Spider-Man videos, playing the Spider-Man games every day
I gotta go.
until Spider-Man 2 comes out. So let's do this. Denzel tiny, tinsel doors. Denzel tiny, tiny, tinsel doors. Denzel tiny, tinsel doors. Denzel tiny, tiny, tinsel doors. Tinsel tiny, tinsel doors.
Hey, mate.
Tinsel tiny, tiny, tinsel doors.
It's nice to see you.
Tinsel
Grab an
tiny,
apron, wash your hands, and I'll show
tinsel
you
doors. Tinsel tiny, tiny, tinsel doors.
Thanks for the
Tinsel tiny, tinsel doors. Tinsel tiny, tiny,
Better get to the Bowery and
tinsel
locate him.
doors. Tinsel tiny, tinsel doors. Tinsel tiny, tiny, tinsel doors. Tinsel tiny, tinsel doors. Tinsel tiny, tiny doors. Tinsel tiny, tinsel doors. Tinsel tiny, tiny, tinsel doors. Tinsel tiny, tinsel doors. Tinsel tiny, tinsel doors.
I wouldn't do that. Silver Sable made it.
Tinsel tiny, tinsel doors. Tinsel tiny, tiny, tinsel doors. Tinsel tiny, tinsel doors. Tinsel tiny, tiny, tinsel doors. Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny, tiny, tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny,
Yeah, well, what you gonna do? Shoot me?
tinsel toes.
Honestly, 50-50 chance.
Tinsel
fine.
tiny,
I'll be
tinsel
in the
toes.
neighborhood, but not too
Tinsel
close. Just
tiny,
in
the
case.
tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes.
Where's Dr. Michaels?
Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes. So tiny, tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes.
I feel better already.
Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny, tiny, tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes. That's the thing that Tombstone made, and what Tombstone and its gang made for the demons. Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes. 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 Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes.
Welcome aboard, Doctor.
So tiny, tinsel toes.
Get off me! We got this!
Yeah, sure you do.
Ten so tiny, ten so tall, ten so tiny. I swear I've seen that so many
He's
times.
got Dr. Michaels and the Devil's Breath.
Copy that. More units coming your way.
He took Michaels alive, so that's good.
Probably so we can force him to make more Devil's Breath.
I have to stop that truck. Tank, whatever. Bet I can go back.
Well, it didn't let me. It didn't give me the option to.
This is Sable International. We have authorization for deadly force. There will be no further warning.
Whoa, whoa, there's a biological weapon in there!
All units, open fire.
Whoa, why is everyone shooting rockets all of a sudden?
Spider-Man, get clear. You are interfering in this operation.
Sorry, but I'm not on board with Operation Missiles in Manhattan.
What the hell? It just webbed nothing. Ten so tiny, ten so tall. Ten so tiny, ten so tall. Ten so tiny, ten so
Stop
tall.
shooting!
Ten so tiny, mine, ten so tall. Ten so tiny, ten so tall. Ten so tiny, ten so tall.
He's coming. He is coming, and he will
Will destroy all sinners. Ten so tiny, ten so tall. Ten so tiny, ten so tall. He already corrupted him. Wow. Ten so tiny, ten so tall. Oh my god, not this. I actually hate this, bro. Ten so tiny, ten so tall.
What's your status? Have
So
you apprehended
tiny, ten so tall. Ten so tiny, ten so tall. Ten so tiny, ten so
Take this!
tall. Ten so tall. Ten so tall.
giving
Ten
you a new perspective.
so tall. Ten so tiny,
I must be honest,
ten
I was
so
hoping
tall.
my abilities lend me a
Ten
certain
so tiny,
persuasiveness.
ten so
I've been
tall.
watching you.
Ten
I was waiting for you at City Hall.
ten
You never
so
came.
tall.
Is this real or in my mind?
It was a shame so many had to die with no heroes to save them.
Ten so tiny, ten so tall. Hey, where is he? On. Ten so tiny, ten so tall. Ten so
That officer
tiny,
saved your
one.
life, didn't he?
Ten
He
so
was here
tall. Ten so tiny, ten so tall. Ten so
Norman wanted to
tiny,
use you.
one.
Futile
Ten
gesture.
so tall.
And where was Norman during
Ten
this?
so
Slinking.
tall.
Correct. He
Ten
knew what was going to
so
happen,
tall.
and he fled.
Ten
Norman is a hidden cancer on this city. He must be exiled with no trace of his corruption to return. Norman hides behind his mask of lies.
so
I
tall.
will break it apart.
Ten
Drag you
so
to my
tiny. Ten so tall. Ten so tiny.
Put on the mask.
Ten so
Become one of
tall.
us.
Ten so tiny. One. Ten
One way or
so
the other. You will
tall.
join me.
Ten so tiny, ten so tall, ten toys. Tiny whiny toes. Tiny whiny. Oh, let's play your game. The negative suit in the negative world. Tinsel tiny one, tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny whiny toes.
Body spilled the cutter, and you did nothing.
Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes.
What's one
Tinsel tiny whiny tinsel
city of
toes. Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny whiny tinsel
defend Oswald while he sits in his ivory tower? This isn't real. Show me true strength.
Oh crap! Oh crap! Yo, what? What the hell? I'm about to die! I'm about to die! Help! Help me! Help me! No! No! Whoa! Oh! Ah! Whoa! So tiny, so tall, so tiny, and so tall.
I will pull your mask off and expose you.
Tiny, so tall,
Give them strength.
so tiny, so tall.
I won't abandon you in the
Tiny.
darkness,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I will break you and leave you brain dead. I will find your family and kill everyone you love.
Okay, that's actually kind of cool. So tiny,
Before me.
so tall. When I fight Martin, I'm probably gonna wear the negative suit.
What? I won't abandon you in the darkness, Martin.
You can't.
You can come back to the light.
There. Tinsel tiny, tinsel tall. Tinsel tiny, whiny, tinsel tall. Tinsel tiny, tinsel tall. Tinsel tiny, whiny, tinsel tall. Tinsel tiny, tinsel tall. Tinsel tiny, whiny, tinsel tall. Tinsel tiny, tinsel tall. Tinsel tiny, whiny, tinsel tall. Tinsel tiny, tinsel tall. Tinsel tiny, whiny, tinsel tall. Tinsel tiny, tinsel tall. Tinsel tiny, tinsel tall. So tiny, tinsel tall. So tiny, whiny, tinsel tall.
Where's the serum?
What is the serum?
Titiskoya.
Titiskoya.
So-called superhero. You think you save people, but you just make it worse.
Said
Your
you.
fault.
Said you.
He was under your protection. You really need two of those?
Brief Mr. Osborne now. I'll go with her. Thank you. I'll remember this.
Ten so tiny, ten so tall, ten so tiny, one, ten so tall.
Not getting much coverage. I should look for more towers to activate.
Ten so tiny, ten. Are you kidding? Ten so tiny, ten so tall.
Yuri, tell me you've got a lead on Martin Lee's location.
We have footage from a guy at a coffee shop. Looks like he hopped into a black sedan after the crash.
Black sedan, great.
Let me finish. We have
So
a partial
tiny,
plate, and one of my patrol guys just found a matching plate. Black sedan in a parking lot near Canal and Hudson.
You're a good cop, Yuri. I'm on my way.
Better than Spider Car.
Spider-Man. Hello? Is this working?
Dr. Michaels? How are you calling?
Borrowed one of Sable's radios. Listen. Transit hubs are the most likely release points for Devil's Breath. Airports, bus terminals, train stations. It'll spread like wildfire from there.
Why the hell is Oscorp developing a bioweapon in the city? Shouldn't this be in an Arctic bunker?
Devil's Breath is personal for Norman. It's been his obsession for decades. The project breaks every state and federal regulation on the books, but he doesn't care.
If the city finds out, he could kiss re-election goodbye.
Never mind re-election. He'd be tried in The Hague for war crimes.
Why are you telling me all this? Aren't you just as culpable as Norman?
Yes. Completely. But Lee's actions have been a wake-up call. We've ignored the project's risk for too long. I trust you, Spider-Man. You're the only one trying to do the right thing. Please, protect the city from our mistakes.
Ten so tiny, ten so tall, ten so tiny, ten so tall, ten so tall, ten so tall, ten so tiny, whiny, ten so tall, ten so tiny, ten so tall, ten so tiny, whiny, ten so tall, ten so tiny, ten so tall,
Work on the neural interface has been
ten so
invaluable.
tiny,
I
tiny,
wish you could see
ten
what that
so
means right now.
tall,
But it's beginning
ten
to dawn on me just how
so
powerful and
tall,
insidious the forces arrayed against true visionaries are.
ten
I promise you
so
though,
tiny,
it
whiny.
won't be long. Success will come, whatever it takes.
Powerful and insidious forces. These cameras aren't cheap. Felicia's really strapped. Why is she leaving them lying around?
Panda Express, pero
Making you change me, Spider. Someday I might even let you catch me. Just not today.
this one I remember when I was stuck on this.
Meow. That cat does enjoy playing games with people. Especially me.
Ten so tiny, ten so tall, ten so tiny, ten so tall, ten so tiny, ten so tall, ten so tiny, whiny, ten so tall, so tiny, ten so tall. Ten so tiny, ten so tall. Are you a ten so tiny, ten so tall, ten so tiny, whiny, ten so tiny, ten so tall, ten so tiny, whiny toes, ten so tiny, ten so tall, ten so tiny, whiny toes.
This is Mary Jane Watson. Please leave a detailed message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
What are you up to now, MJ?
Standish said the demons are looking for something at GCT. But what could they possibly need here? Should probably call Peter and let him know what I'm doing. Actually, scratch that. He'd probably just tell me to go home and chain myself to my laptop. I'll just check things out quick and let him know what I find.
This
Speed run.
Dispersal device releases specially formulated microbes into the atmosphere, and in turn, leaves our oceans and rivers cleaner.
MJ, I'm on my way. Are you hurt?
No, I'm fine. Just hurry.
Going as fast as I can. What are you doing at GCT?
I'll explain later. Listen, Lee's going to release the Devil's Breath.
You gotta get out of there.
He's not gonna do it until Norman Osborn gets here.
Wait, this must have been Lee's plan all along. Make Norman responsible by forcing him to release the Devil's Breath himself.
Sort of makes sense in a twisted, psychotic way.
Okay, I'm here. Coming into the terminal now. Anything I should be on the lookout for?
I don't want to die. I don't want to. Looks like he's got some drones patrolling. Guess he's prepared for you.
Don't worry, I'm in the ventilation system. Can you see a safe exit point?
Southwest corner.
On my way. If I get any closer, the drones will spot me.
See that tablet I'm looking at?
Think you can snag it?
Yes, if you can distract them and not get shot.
I'm ready. Tell me when.
Okay, I'm ready.
Incoming.
Won't let me do anything.
Okay, move.
Fair.
Wait!
MJ, what are you doing?
Let's all just relax. Listen, I'm a reporter. I have a direct line to Mayor Osborn. I can help make sure he arrives on time.
How?
First, let him go.
That weight is the same weight when you get caught in stealth scenes. So tiny, so tiny, so tiny, tiny, so tiny, tiny, so tiny, so tiny, yeah, that's gonna be so much easier. So tiny, so tiny, so tiny, so tiny, tiny, and so tiny, tiny, and so tiny, and so tiny, and so tiny,
Good job. Now let's get you out of here. I'll come back for it.
We're partners, remember?
then so tiny, tiny, toes. Then so tiny, tiny, then so tiny, so tiny, then so
You got yourself into this.
then so tiny,
I don't like this. There's too many of them.
Let's start taking him out. Quietly.
Turn so tiny, tiny, tiny. Turn so tiny, tiny, tiny. Yeah, I want to see how quick that is. This is. Oh, so much quicker than the stairs. Wow. Turn so tiny, turn so tiny.
See if you can break up that
So
I'm gonna try and
tiny,
separate them.
tiny, turn so tiny.
Take him out.
Turn so tiny, turn so tiny, turn so tiny, whiny,
MJ, did you know Lee would be
turn
here?
so
Not exactly.
tiny,
What do you mean?
turn
I thought
so
something
tiny.
might happen, but not like this.
Why didn't you tell me? I thought we were partners.
Gamers trust each other, Peter.
What do you mean? I trust you.
Yeah, when I'm sitting at home behind a laptop.
Oh, come on.
Can we please get back to saving the city here?
Turn so toast. Turn so tiny, whiny, turn so toast. No! Turn so tiny, turn so toast. Turn so tiny, turn so toast. What the hell, Sony?
那个记者在哪里？
卷出去在哪里？真的。Ten so tiny, ten so toast. Ten so tiny, whiny, ten so toast. Ten so tiny, ten so toast. Ten so tiny, whiny, ten so toast. Ten so tiny, ten so toast. Ten so tiny, tiny.
It's never stopped me before.
Okay, what do you see?
Okay. Looks like the blue is connected to the battery, and yellow to a fan. Red one has a little exclamation mark.
Okay, you'll want to detach the wires from the battery first. Trace the wires to the other end and unplug them from there.
Okay, unplug the wires from the battery. Okay, pull the first wire.
Now the second one.
The timer just changed.
What? I forgot about that.
Circuit.
What comes next? The fan?
Yes, then the last wire. But you have to hurry.
Okay, now the red one. Got it.
You did it. Wow.
Yeah. Now let's get these people out of here.
Ten so tiny, ten so toast. So tiny, whiny, ten so
Will do.
toast. So tiny, ten so toast. Ten so tiny, whiny, ten so toast. Boom. Sound of silence, isn't it, mate?
Gotta be careful or the hostages will get hurt.
So tiny. Oh. Ten so toast. Ten so tiny, whiny toast. Ten so tiny, tiny toast. Ten so whiny, tiny toast. Ten so tiny, ten so toast. Whoa! Ten so tiny, one. Ten so toast. Ten so tiny, ten so toast. Ten tiny, whiny, ten so toast. Ten so tiny, ten so toast. Ten so tiny.
Fisk never would have taken hostages like this. He was right. I'm starting to miss him.
Ten so toast. Ten so tiny, tiny toast. Ten so tiny, ten so toast. Ten so tiny, whiny toast. Ten so
Just need to take out a few more. Then it'll be safe for you to move.
Hurry.
Ten so toast. Ten so whiny. Ten so toast.
Okay, MJ, time to go.
Copy that.
Everyone, on, follow me!
别滚蚊子的，拿下蜘蛛侠。
MJ, did you make it out?
Yeah, everyone's safe.
Good job.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah?
When you're done in there, we should talk.
Yeah, we should.
First, find Lee and kick his ass.
I feel bad for anyone who's on the wrong side of MJ. I wonder what side I'm on right now.
Hey bro, what's your problem? I can only use the negative shockwave one after I beat Lee for the first time, which I'm going to in this mission, so. Deploy the rocket?
Okay guys, trivia time. Did you know Grand Central has the largest basement in New York City? Crazy, right? You fit half the Brooklyn Bridge down there. Ha! I agree. You sure don't make them like they used to. That's old school New York gumption for you. Anyway, I can talk trivia all day, but I gotta stop your wingnut of a boss from destroying the city. Time to wrap this up. His escape plan is to use the train. Can't let him get away. Train's moving. Lee's getting away.
Alright.
Finally.
Sorry I'm late. It's kind of my thing.
Turn so tiny, turn so tiny. Actually, this one would be the best for this. Oh, you can't even use it. Oh.
Why are you doing this?
Paying off an old debt.
Kinda reminds me of Condor's built-in emote from Fortnite.
Better keep my distance for now. That didn't work. Better wait for an opening.
I swear I just heard the metal pole sound.
He's hurt.
Well, actually, he's not hurt, he's tired. Again?
Looks like he's getting tired.
Whoa.
Gotta move fast before he recovers. Gotta wait for an opening.
Oh no. Metal pole sound again?
You're sick. Let me help you, Mark.
Why can't you whip him normally? See? Maybe he wasn't expecting it. But he also wasn't expecting it. No. Oh, well, I thought that was the one where you have to jump over. That one.
I don't want to hurt you! Nothing to hurt me! Not anymore!
Yeah, let's go! One lay down, another lay to go.
No brakes? No problem. That totally worked last time. Yuri, they still doing construction on 42nd First?
The street's closed for another month. Why?
Why? Bro got poop stains on his trousers.
Next stop, prison.
Tinsel tiny, tinsel toes, tinsel tiny, whiny, tinsel toes, tinsel tiny, toes, tinsel tiny, whiny, tinsel toes, toes, tinsel tiny, tinsel toes. Tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel, tinsel tiny. Tinsel tiny toes, 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 tinsel tiny tiny, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny tiny, tinsel tiny toes. Take the time on it. So,
Not okay.
Hey, I was young when I got this game. I just realized that by over, and he mean like not that type of over.
Oh, you think?
I thought I didn't know what I meant. And I just realized that, like, the relationship is over. Tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny tiny, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny 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 toes, tinsel tiny time, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes. The Sinister Six.
How much time do you have?
Tinsel tiny toes. Well, actually, Fisk is replaced with Octavius.
Good job.
Thanks, Yuri.
Tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny tiny, tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny tiny, tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Hey, I made an exact thumbnail in this spot for a Miles thumbnail. Tinsel tiny toes, tins, tiny toys, No, I meant photo mode. Tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, 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 tiny toys, 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 tinsel, tiny toys. Oh, tinsel, tiny toes, tinsel, tiny toes, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys. Okay, maybe that's not too good. Tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys. Tiny toys. Oh my god, not that position. Alright, how high can I go? Because first of all, I want to be really high. Tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, yeah, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, toys. Tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys. Yeah, why wasn't he in it? JJ speaking facts. Facts, no caps. Tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys. Hey, wait. Obscured, right there. Tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel. It's that big building there. What? It's that big building. Tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel. Wait, tiny toes, tinsel, 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 one so tiny. Tinsel, tiny toes, tinsel, tiny toes, tinsel, tiny toes, tinsel, winsel, tiny tinsel, tiny toes, 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 tiny, tiny, tiny toes, tinsel, tiny toes, tinsel, tiny toes, tinsel, tiny toes, tiny toes, tinsel, tiny toes, tinsel, tiny toes, tinsel, tiny, tinsel, tiny toes, tinsel, tiny toes, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny, tiny. Tinsel, tiny. Bro, I've done multiple secret photo ops, and I haven't even got that thing. What, the raft's too far? Tinsel, tiny toys, tinsel, tiny toys, Tinsel. Oh, Brooklyn Bridge. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Manhattan Bridge as well. Tinsel tiny toys. 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 Tinsel tiny. Tinsel toys. Tinsel tiny 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 toys. Tiny toys. Tinsel 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 tiny toys. Is there one for like swinging? Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tiny toys. How about every other boss fight except for the Martin Lee ones and the demon ones and stuff like that? I wear the armored, an armored advanced suit. Tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Tiny toes. Tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Oh, tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Tiny toes. Tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Tinsel tiny toes. Tiny toes. Tiny toes. Tinsel. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Yeah, tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. This is where we're introduced to Octavia. No, Octopus. Dr. Octopus. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel.
Never mind to an external prosthesis.
But under the wrong hands, it can go crazy.
No one can take
Tinsel tiny toys. Tinsel tiny toys.
And your work on the neural web was the key.
Tinsel tiny toys. tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tiny toys, tiny toys, tinsel tiny tinsel toys, tinsel tiny tiny tinsel toys, tinsel tiny tinsel toys, tinsel toys, tinsel toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tiny toys, tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel, tinsel, oh, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tiny, tiny, tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel, oh wait, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tiny, tiny, tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tiny toys, tiny toys, tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys. Okay, plus tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tiny toys, tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tiny toys, tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, oh, tinsel, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toes, tiny toes, tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, tiny toes, tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, oh, tinsel tiny toes, tiny, tiny, tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes. It's because now it's got even more on. Tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny toys, tiny toys, tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys. Come on.
The neural web isn't isolating your motor neurons. It could be affecting other parts of your brain, your inhibitions, your mood. I just think we need some more tests.
We've got enough tests! For the first time in my life, I don't feel like a failure. I feel like me.
Otto, you're not a failure. But this could permanently damage your mind. Please.
Right. Right.
Don't worry. We're close.
Keep at it. We got some bugs. Go. You sure you're okay?
And he's gonna turn it right back on. Tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tiny toys, tiny toys, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny tiny toes, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toys, tinsel tiny toes, tinsel tiny tiny toys, tinsel tiny tiny toys, Tinsel, tiny, tiny toys. Tinsel, 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 tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tiny toys. So tiny toes.
I should check on Miles. Hey, Pete.
And then after this,
I just wanted to see how you're doing with the news about Lee. Look, if you didn't want to work there anymore, May and I would understand.
I did want to quit when I heard. Then I remember what my dad used to say. A hero is just a guy who doesn't give up.
That's true, assuming he's doing the right thing. I got you that job. I'd hate for you to keep doing it if... Hey, my Mark I web shooters. Managed to improve the storage capacity a lot since
tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny toys.
Hey, Miles, sorry about that.
Tinsel,
Just want to see how you're doing with this Martin Lee.
tiny toys.
May and I would
Tiny
understand if you
toys.
didn't want to work with
Tinsel, tiny toys. Tinsel,
Then I remember what my
tiny
dad used to say. A hero is just a guy who doesn't give up.
That's true, assuming he's doing the right thing. I got you that job. I'd hate for you to keep doing it if you think it's wrong.
Well, the people here, nothing Martin Lee did is their fault. They need help and I'm helping them. I think Dad would want me to stay. I think he'd be proud.
I know he would. And Miles, I'm proud of you too. Anytime you want to talk, just call.
Thanks, Pete. Gotta go. May just gave me a list of all the supplies again. Alright, later.
Tinsel, tiny toys. 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 Tinsel, tiny, tinsel, toys. Tinsel, tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny toys. Tiny, tiny, tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny, 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 whiny, tiny toys. Tinsel, 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 tiny, whiny, tiny tinsel. Tinsel, tiny, whiny, tiny, whiny. Tinsel, whistle, toys. Toys, tinsel, whistle, toys. Tiny, whiny, tiny toys. Tinsel, toys. Tinsel, tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny toys. Tinsel, tiny toys. Alright. I'm gonna end the video here because I know a big part of the story is coming up, and I'm gonna save that for the next video. Goodbye.